Okay, gents, let's now focus on match week 35 in the Premier League. I mean, I think the headlines here are the tricky trips, obviously, for the title rivals, Man City and Liverpool. That takes center stage. They both got really tough away games to two of the toughest stadiums to go to from an atmosphere point of view. Nick Mendola, I'm going to come straight to you. Newcastle against Liverpool. Let's start there. As someone who has Newcastle close to his heart, they are absolutely flying right now. What are you looking for as Newcastle hosts Liverpool? Because I think I already know what you're going to say.
Well, listen, jokes about the best Bruno in the league, which we obviously have, aside, I really think they get something here.
Really?
Yeah, I really think they get something here. And it's not because I've seen a lot of bad games between Newcastle and Liverpool. I think Liverpool is absolutely fantastic. What I'm seeing from Eddie Howe and the way he's organized this team and what he's getting out of some inspired players, I'm seeing players come to Newcastle for the second half of the season and do things that I really haven't seen them do. Matt Targett looks unbelievable. I mean, it's crazy how good he looks. And if Newcastle had Kieran Trippier back for this game, I would feel even better about it. But they're defending well. They've got the poor man's Fabinho and Joe Ellington there at center mid with Bruno Guimaraes. They are kind of controlling the midfield in a lot of these games. They have St. Maximin as the X factor. And I just feel like sandwiched between two Champions League games. Everyone talks. It's always funny in America. We talk about these 3.5 hour bus rides or 4.5 hour bus rides, which like is Buffalo to it just beyond Pittsburgh. But in England, it's like, oh God, that is such a trek. But for some reason, that's how it works, right? I mean, we see those as long journeys. So I do think Newcastle has a chance, the way they've been resolutely defending and hitting on the counter, of getting a point here. I wouldn't predict a win, but I do think they're going to get a point.
Liverpool play such a high line. I feel like that is how Newcastle can get in behind here, right? With the pace of St. Max, maybe Almiron, and just it in all the games recently, even against Everton, they gave up big chances or put themselves in situations where they were so in control of games, but you kind of just feel like Alisson has to bail them out at least once a game where they need a last-ditch tackle or a bad miss. I mean, you look at all their games recently, and yes, they've won the vast majority of them, Andy, but is there any way there that you agree with Nick and see that Newcastle are going to get something? Is it that far-fetched, or is it actually, on paper, probably one of their most difficult games remaining, aside from Tottenham, I think, right?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen, but I can see the formula and I can see it playing. I can see how it could happen in this game. I'll say that, because if you look at where Newcastle's strength is right now, it is a lot of ball winners in the center of midfield. They've got a couple of really special talents up top who can go one-on-one and especially attack in space on the counter. But I think it's the central midfield where they've got, as Nick said, they've got Joe Ellington, they've got Bruno in there, are winning the ball at a really, really high rate right now. And against Liverpool, obviously that's important. They will be a little bit, short on rest with Champions League midweek and then coming back domestically. And so I can start to piece together little factors, I think, of this game that could maybe give Newcastle an opportunity. But I just still look at the front. It's not even the front three; it's the front five for Liverpool. It's the options that they have up there. It almost doesn't matter that they're playing in Champions League midweek, and the fact that they've got Villarreal, which is supposed to be kind of the easier of the two semifinals. I don't think it stacks up great, but I do love what I've seen from Newcastle in recent weeks. There's a spirit, there is a fight there. There's a desire, I think, from every single individual to no longer simply pick up their paycheck. And I think a lot of guys are looking at it and saying, there's going to be big changes around here in the summer. This is not so bad right now. I'd like to be here for next season. Whether it's Eddie Howe that's in charge, whether it's going to be somebody else, whoever's going to be brought in the transfer market this summer. I want to be a part of that. And I think we're starting to see kind of not just the performances, but obviously the results are indicating that as well.
Yeah, I think they're a very dangerous team to play against right now, Newcastle. So that's weird at this time of the season. It's momentum. It's like looking on paper, it's like, oh, that's not a bad fixture. It's like, oh, actually they've won, 3 or 4 on the spin, whatever it is, going into this game. And I feel like those are the kind of games that are really, really tricky for Man City and Liverpool to negotiate right now. Talking about Man City, Nick, they go to Leeds United, who obviously need a win to pretty much secure their Premier League status for another season. Elland Road is tough to go to, but Pep Guardiola's side just seem to have a way of sucking the life out of games at times and just just keeping the ball and just always playing their own game. I mean, that will count for a lot, I think, against Leeds United. But Leeds are also one of the teams that can really go toe-to-toe with City and almost go man for man. We saw that under Bielsa. They do that a little bit under Jesse Marsch, but they are more pragmatic now. We saw the clean sheet at Palace. They got a lot better defensively, but going forward, they've lost a little bit. So for Man City, is this a routine win, or what do we think about that? Because again, this is another situation where Liverpool play before them, and then they'll have to make up that gap if Liverpool do take care of Newcastle. So it's great, right? The back and forth at this time, just the scheduling of the games.
It is. I think that Andy mentioned, right, when we were talking about the most shocking relegations, that was Leeds. And now that it was one of them was Leeds. I'm sorry, I'm not saying that's definitive. But now that they're back up here and humming, you remember how big that atmosphere was, how big Leeds was, and what it is and what it means. I think this is as dangerous as the Newcastle game for Liverpool. And the reason that I'm just picking Man City isn't because I want my prediction of them winning the Premier League to be right. Maybe that's a part of it. But it's because I've seen Pep Guardiola purposely, in my opinion, pick one game over the last month to kind of say, we'll see how it goes. And that was the Liverpool FA Cup game. They're lined up now. So regardless of what happens against Real Madrid today, there's going to be a completely different attacking plan that's already been implemented for Leeds. Mm-hmm. And while Jesse Marsch certainly has the experience of going up against some big sides, whether it was when he had Haaland at Salzburg or other games in the Champions League, right? I just think that Man City's a little bit better wired for this, just as Liverpool is as well. And so I don't want to sound hypocritical. I do think Newcastle's in for a heck of a battle this week, but I think Man City is wired for these one game at a time, not losing focus, resetting quickly. I have a hard time picking them to lose.
Andy, do you agree with that?
Do you either of you remember what happened the last time these two teams played?
Not the torrential downpour, not that one.
Because I forgot. It was 7-0. I forgot about that. Oh. It was quite a long time ago. It was December 14th. But just put that out of mind. I think it was the struggles of Leeds at the time, the brilliance of Man City at the time, and still now even. I don't see how Leeds get anything out of this game because I look at what they did well against Palace. They created a little bit of chaos, put them under pressure in the middle third of the field especially. Good luck getting close to the ball against Manchester City. You can press and run yourself into the ground all you want, and that does not mean you're going to have success winning the ball back against them. Like Nick says, there will already be an attacking plan in place. There will be a possession plan in place, a plan for how to deal with the press, whether it's going to be super high, whether it's going to be a little bit lower block. It almost doesn't matter because Manchester City are as good in possession as they are defensively, and we know how good they are defensively.
It doesn't matter, though. I think, obviously, because the City playing against Real Madrid, either side of this, their squad is strong, but we saw in the FA Cup semi-final, like Nick said, when it is rotated, which it could be for this game, but it's difficult, right? I feel like it won't be rotated as much, obviously, but that is a huge, huge ask to stay at that level for the two legs against Real Madrid and then go into a tough place like Leeds United.
Yeah, I'll say it might take them 60, 65, 70 minutes to break through, but they will break. It'll be one of those classic kind of, oh, hey, Manchester City grinded out the win the way that they needed to on short rest coming from it'll be one of those moments where, who knows who's going to get the goal. But it's just going to be one of those things where all of the years playing together, all of the years under Pep, it's, you draw on little things in those moments. And the fact that Pep has been there, how many times in his career, the fact that this Manchester City team has been there, how many times in their respective career, they know how to deal with this situation right here, and leads to them, not a worry.
That's very true. I can just see like a 2-0 City win, Foden and Sterling or something in the last 20 minutes. It seems like
Leeds ain't Liverpool. That's the other thing, right? Leeds aren't Liverpool. When we talk about that rotation.
Yeah, that's so true. But again, the added factor that Leeds, obviously, a point would be huge for them. And you look at the final 5 games as well. So it's going to be a great one at Elland Road. I was there earlier this season. The atmosphere is electric, hostile, and I think that will definitely, it will be really interesting to see how Man City cope with that in between these two huge Champions League semi-finals against Real Madrid. focusing on Everton against Chelsea this weekend. Nick, I mean, how do we approach this game? Because obviously Everton need the win to get out of the relegation zone. Frank Lampard has connections with Chelsea. Chelsea are just sitting pretty in third place. No one's ever really going to get close to them in that position. So this is a really weird game to try and preview.
Well, Joe, how angry is Pulisic? I'll tell you what. I think this is this has a quick Chelsea goal as the end of the game written all over it, and I think so. Everton needs to come out almost as defensive as they did against Liverpool, because I think Chelsea will be fired up to if anything. Look, it's Frank Lampard against Chelsea, guys. I think it's really interesting. These guys played for him. Some of them obviously didn't like him. So I think that there's going to be more of a – we're going to learn a little bit more about all the positive things that were said about Frank Lampard when this Chelsea team has a chance to bury him. Is that a weird thing to ask?
No, I don't think so. Andy, do you agree?
No, yeah, it's Chelsea will not give Everton the space and opportunity to counter the way that Liverpool did and do by design. That's a feature of the system for that Liverpool team. They're going to bet that Virgil van Dijk, Joel Matip, if they will deal with the trouble, and if not, we've got Alisson back there, and so we will be fine. Chelsea will not take those risks, and so they won't give those moments of, for Anthony Gordon on one side, or trying to play Richarlison in behind. That's just not going to be there against Chelsea. The system for Thomas Tuchel is to limit all of those things. And so I don't see how they create chances when they're not able to get out and go one-on-one in open space. Because if you look at that Liverpool game, that's where everything came from for Everton. And that's just not going to be there against Chelsea.
It's not. And I think I've been at Chelsea games recently against Arsenal and West Ham. It's very mixed displays. It's a very kind of strange vibe right now. A lot of players, like we said, Rudiger obviously is leaving, expected to go to Real Madrid this summer when his contract runs out. Christensen, Azpilicueta in similar situations. Then you have a lot of players there who maybe feel like they've won the Champions League with Chelsea. They've won other trophies. Maybe this is the end of the road for them and they'd like to try something a bit new. And then there's other players who are trying to prove that they want to stick around under Thomas Tuchel, because I don't think he's going anywhere, right? No matter who comes in as the new owner, he's going to be there for next season, maybe the next couple, considering the job he's done. So it's a really weird dynamic at Chelsea, and they're kind of like the old, Forrest Gump analogy, right? Life is a box of chocolates. You just don't, and I feel like at the moment it's very difficult to predict what they're going to do, and I think that's good for Everton. I really do think that this is perhaps the game that you look at the schedule of the last 6 games coming up for Everton, and you think, yeah, this is one unexpectedly where they could get 3 points, or at the very least a point, and that helps them up massively in the battle against relegation. So, yeah, let's wait and see what happens for Frank Lampard. But I think if Chelsea not let them win, but if there is a big Everton win here, it'd be really interesting to see some of the talk afterwards in the newspapers over here about that certain situation. Nick, West Ham against Arsenal. West Ham all in on the Europa League. Good luck to them. David Moyes done a great job there. They're not in the top 4 battle anymore. Not really playing for much in the Premier League. I guess they're trying to push, Manchester United for that Europa League spot to get back in there next season. Arsenal obviously are playing really well going forward. Defensively, a lot of issues. We saw that against Chelsea and against Man United. But what do we think of this game? Because this is one of those games on paper, it could be a 3-2 win to Arsenal or something like that, right?
I was going to ask, what's the Premier League record for most goals in a game combined between two teams? Because both of these teams like to get after it, and you could see West Ham playing a little bit loose and also having guys who are having the opportunity to take a chance because of what's going on with Europa. And I mean, let's be honest, if you're West Ham, I think you're all in on trying to win the tournament you're in, because maybe that's the reason you convinced Declan Rice to somehow stick around. There have been reports that he's turned down multiple contract offers. He is such a key piece of what they do. They have a great little mix of chemistry, and we've seen how when guys start to leave those teams, that things start to fall apart. So I think David Moyes and the West Ham team will be rallied in all of their games before. There's just there's a loose mood to the team, like in a sense, which is weird to say because they play so hard and they're so physical, and they're not a team you want to play against. That said, Arsenal is absolutely geared up. Let's not forget that if there was, for whatever reason, a chance that these players did not have their eye on the top four as closely in focus as you imagine, all that told, you're still trying to keep Tottenham out, and that rivalry permeates the entire club. So I think you'll see intent from both teams. It's the reason I would perhaps pick Arsenal to win, is that the desperation is a little bit more there.
It is, and Saka, Odegaard, Smith Rowe, and Nketiah have been brilliant in the last few weeks, and just kind of, I feel like they really know the soul, especially Saka and Smith Rowe and Nketiah, that club coming up through the academy, been there for a long time. You can just tell it means that much more to them. And there's some great scenes after they win against Man United. Bergkamp and Thierry Henry were back at the Emirates and chatting to Saka and Smith Rowe, and they were telling them, you guys remind us of ourselves. But Henry were back at the Emirates and chatting to Saka and Smith Rowe, and they were telling them, you guys remind us of ourselves, but back in the day. And sort of Manchester United against Brentford. Obviously, Spurs stalling a little bit in their push for top four. Really poor performance away at Brentford last time out. Really lucky to actually get a point from that game. I don't know if that's maybe Antonio Conte's sort of game plan, the more defensive style. Sometimes, even at Chelsea back in the day, it kind of just stifles the attack sometimes, and you can't really get out because you have so many players back, and almost that back three turns into a back five when teams work it out. So I feel like we see a much better Tottenham team against Leicester, and Leicester attack more. They'll be going all out, and they have the Conference League semi-finals as well to focus on. So good luck to Leicester as well, as the Premier League tries to dominate these three European competitions. And Man United, Brentford, I feel like this has got a Brentford win written all over it. Man United are just in disarray at the moment. Some good individual moments. They're much better against Arsenal, but still so many sloppy defensive mistakes. 45 minutes of each game, I feel like they just don't turn up. And Brentford with Eriksen and Mbeumo and Tony, if they're solid, they have three players there that can hurt any team. So much to look forward to in the Premier League this weekend. The title race, top four battle, relegation scrap. Head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com for all the latest watch live information, team news, previews. Three lads you can see on the screen. We'll have it all covered with that. Gents, thanks so much for joining me for Pro Soccer Talk this week. Thanks everyone for watching, and we'll speak to you all very soon indeed. Cheers and enjoy the games.